Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today, we got some kind of show for you guys here today. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And also, if you're not following us on the Dreamerspro podcast and you want the full audio of today's show, check it out in the Dreamerspro podcast that we have pinned in the comment section below on Spotify or iTunes. Anyway. Let me get into this topic here. Now, this topic is one of the most request topics I've been getting over the last 2 days. I'm receiving messages on the channel. I'm receiving messages on Instagram. Hey, man, what do you think about this Dwight Howard situation? What do you think about this Dwight Howard situation? And I'm like, did y'all hear this situation? Like, did y'all really hear this story? To me, this story is so ridiculous. It is so ridiculous that I just want to focus on this from the NBA aspect. There are other people that are going to get into the gory details and all of those stuff. That's none of them. I have zero interest. Dwight Howard is a grown man. He can do whatever the hell he wants to do. I have zero interest in what another guy is doing in his personal life, to be quite honest with you. So I don't even want to get into those details because I personally don't care one way or the other. However, I want to focus on the NBA aspect of it. Why am I saying this? Yesterday, Stephen A. Smith touched on this topic. And as you guys know, Stephen A. Smith is an insider. He knows everybody. He's plugged in and all of these things, right? And he started to reveal the shocking reason why NBA teams decided not to touch Dwight Howard. Now, as you guys know, Dwight Howard recently tried to make a comeback to the NBA, and he was even worked out by the Golden State Warriors. I actually thought that the Warriors were going to pick him up, given the fact that he's a big body, he can play defense, he's a veteran, and he adds more depth to their bench, right? So I thought it was a no-brainer. But then we heard subsequently that the Warriors decided not to extend a contract to Dwight Howard, and that was that. And then this scandal came out, and I was like, I heard it, and I was like, bro, what? But I didn't bother to go too much into it. So I was listening to Stephen A. Smith yesterday, and he kind of covered the details that I'm not going to get into. But then he started talking about it from an NBA angle. And he started to explain why he believes teams did not decide to touch Dwight Howard. And I was a bit surprised to hear his reasoning because it was something I had never considered. So what we want to do is want to play exactly what Stephen A. Smith had to say about why he believes NBA teams did not sign Dwight Howard. And then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say here.
Other than that, let me tell you what came to my mind when I thought about this. That's why teams didn't want him. That's why teams didn't want him. Now, whether they're going to admit it or not, and I'm not going to mention teams because I don't want to incriminate anybody or accuse anybody of something I simply don't know. I'm guessing. What I'm saying is that that's the first thought that came to my mind. That's why they don't want him. Because what do I constantly try to educate y'all about as somebody that's been a reporter for 30 years? We always know more than we reveal. Because our intel comes from the actual sources. And so it is not beyond the realm of comprehension that a team was looking into bringing Dwight Howard with that defensive prowess that he brings to the table, that a team was not looking to bring Dwight Howard on board and then found out through their investigative process, because they investigate everything, that he had this court situation coming down the pipe. It's just a reasonable conclusion for me. I'm totally guessing, but it's a reasonable conclusion to deduce. That's what I look at. That's what I pay attention to. That's what I steal from why somebody wouldn't want Dwight Howard. Why wouldn't you? He runs the court like a gazelle. He can jump out of the building. He can block shots. He can defend. He ain't the offensive player he thinks he is, but he's not a scrub. But he is an elite defensive player, or at least once upon a time he was. And seeing how some of these teams struggle defensively, there's no reason why you wouldn't have Dwight Howard on your team, basketball-wise. I don't get it. At least I didn't get it. I'm just guessing. But I'm guessing that I get it now. Live your life, brother. Sorry you're in the news for this nonsense. It's quite embarrassing. But it is what it is. And by the way, when I brought up him not making it on the top 75 list of all-time NBA players, it was Stan Van Gundy, former coach of Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic in Orlando when they went to the finals. It was him that went off, calling it absolutely ridiculous that Anthony Davis was on the top 75 list over Dwight Howard. That's a debatable subject as well. Who belongs in that top 75 list more, Dwight Howard or Anthony Davis? I guess we could answer the question, assuming that any of us can bring ourselves to talk about basketball.
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say there. Now, let me tell you why I think there's some credibility in what he's saying. Let's just quickly go over Dwight Howard's resume. Dwight Howard, when he was a player in the NBA, he made multiple all-star teams. He made what is it? All-star. He was a 5-time. He was an 8-time all-star. He won a championship in 2020. He made 5 all-first NBA teams, 1 second. So he made 8 all-NBA teams. Get this. He won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. He made all-first defensive 4 times, and he made a defensive second team 1 time. Then he led the league in rebounding 5 times. Then he led the league in blocks 2 times. And if you watch Dwight Howard play with the Lakers back in 2020, you could see that he was one of the major reasons the Lakers were able to capture that title with the defense he was able to play against Nikola Jokic in tandem with Anthony Davis. Dwight Howard, they would not have won that championship without Dwight Howard, right? And when he was with the Lakers, he behaved himself. There were no issues. There were no distractions. He was just focused on the job in front of him. So to hear that NBA teams are rejecting him, over this scandal, I can understand why. Because I don't see why they would reject him from a veteran standpoint, an experience standpoint, and what he can bring to a team, especially as a defensive anchor on a second unit or a starting lineup, a guy that even has championship experience. So I believe that there's some truth to it. I 100% believe it. Now, it's important that I reiterate once again that this is Dwight Howard's business. To be quite honest with you, I have absolutely zero interest in his personal life, especially these details. If you like it, I love it, bro. Whatever floats your boat. To me, however, I don't see how he's not on an NBA roster, considering the fact that, Dwight Howard keeps himself in tip-top shape. I mean, he is one of the most conditioned NBA players probably in the last 20 years. If you just look at Dwight Howard, I mean, he takes care of himself physically, and he looks like somebody that's, especially when he went abroad, you saw what he could still do. So to me, I can also understand the standpoint of NBA teams because maybe they just don't want the drama, and maybe they may be pending lawsuits and they don't want to be connected to that. Why? Because if you sign him and there's a pending lawsuit, then whenever it's being discussed in the papers and the tabloids and the media, there's going to be the lawsuit, there's going to be Dwight Howard, and they're going to be Dwight Howard of such and such team, which may bring a negative connotation to that team. And maybe that's what teams are trying to avoid. And to me, listen, I totally understand that as well, because maybe you don't want to be connected to a story like that or that type of drama, especially where they may be some possible legal ramifications. And some of these teams are maybe saying maybe it's not worth the trouble. Some people say, but what about the situation with the Lakers and Kobe Bryant? Why didn't they cut him? Well, obviously, Kobe Bryant was a totally different caliber player at that time. So the Lakers weren't just going to, cut him. And number 2, he was already under contract. It wasn't like as if his contract had expired and he was looking for a new contract. Maybe that would have been a different conversation then. But once again, Stephen A. Smith made me think about this from an angle that I had not considered, which was the angle he presented here. It's very interesting. So what I want to know from you guys is simply this. Do you think that the possible legal ramifications and the negative press that Dwight Howard may receive is one of the reasons NBA teams said to themselves, listen, we don't want to be connected to this story whatsoever, and it's not worth the trouble. We can just go out there and look for another veteran big. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comments section, and we catch you guys on the next show. Peace.